are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you are lucky enough to be doing it to, upon, or with. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and this is the M46 Patton. I've got a real soft spot for this tank. This is another of the tanks that I was told by Chappos and Snake that I needed to start driving way back when because I thought it was rubbish. And I was wrong, and this tank is a lovely tank. There's a bit of controversy at Tier 9 at present, or it's been there for a while. The T-54 is incredibly strong. It's a very, very overpowered tank. It's got heavy tank armor, it fires its premium ammunition, and it has Tier 10 top-notch penetration values. It's got DPM to burn, but there's a couple of things it doesn't have. It doesn't have gun depression, which is really, really important. And that is something this tank has in spades, and it makes this tank a viable option at Tier 9. There's a couple of other gun depression tanks. The Centurion 7 Mark I is a great tank. I love it, but it's not for all because you really have to be good at swapping ammunition types to take full advantage of it. It's a great sniper. This is not a great gun handling tank, but it does have very good gun depression. It also has DPM to rival that of the T-54. So while the 7 Mark I has poor DPM, this tank has great DPM. And then you get tanks like the Type 61, which have neither fantastic DPM nor good armor, but have very, very good gun depression. So there's a lot of different tanks at Tier 9, but clearly the strongest tank would be the T-54. Now, this Patton has enough gun depression and a strong enough turret that you can utilize it as a hill fighter. It also has enough DPM and just enough armor profile that you can brawl with it. But in my opinion, it's probably still not as strong as a T-54, which is not saying anything super controversial. However, it looks amazing and it gives you a different experience than a T-54 does. And for that reason, I keep driving it. Now you'll note that I'm constantly finding hills. Look at this idiot T-43. He is going to ruin my day if he can. He's a Tier 7. He won't be able to pen most of the tanks that are coming around. And he doesn't have the gun depression to take advantage of the spot. But he's going to be up here getting in the way all the same. Now, you'll see that I get to hills an awful lot. Now that's great because the current game meta really encourages that. There are an awful lot of tanks out there that don't get to take advantage of the corridor gun depression theme that really is being pushed by wargaming at the present. By that I mean you get the dunes on Oasis Palms, Desert Sands, Mirage. You get the hills on Canal and Middleburg, and all these other maps are starting to come in where they're really trying to make these small, sharp, hard encounters and get rid of that big sniping, long-range bombing from invisibility that used to be the case on maps like Desert Sands and, well, Oasis Palms for sure. And you can see here, this tank has an innate ability on hills. If you turn it horizontal to the peak of the hill like this, and you move backwards and forwards, you are hull downing the tank all the time. And you can do this with M103s, E5s, 7 Mark Is, but particularly the American, both heavy and medium tanks do this really well. You can go round corners, staying underneath the brow of the hill, and still be hull down like this, shooting into this M103. And here's what I'm talking about with corridor fighting. And this is why this tank can be so successful. It's got the mobility to actually turn around and move all through these corridors, take advantage of situations as heavy tanks and tank destroyers get stuck in isolated spots. And it's also got the DPM to just smash people in brawls when the time comes. Where you're going to struggle with it is your penetration values. And as such, I carry an awful lot more Pramo than I would normally in most tanks. In the T-54, I carry 7 rounds of Pramo because just about every time you fire premium ammunition in a T-54, it's going to pen. You've got 330mm on that. You have a better gun in terms of dispersion. With this tank, even with premium ammunition, there are some tanks that will still be shades of red at Tier 10 and you'll struggle with it. Now, with that in mind, you really want to take your time when you are taking shots, and it's one of the reasons that a lot of people will run V-stab on this over optics. I run optics at the present, but if I could, I'd probably go back to V-Stab because I think it really needs that extra gun handling. It's got great gun depression, which allows you to take those shots. Obviously, you can see here, T54 would really struggle to get shots off like that. Any kind of bump in the ground ruins a T54. They've only got 5 degrees of gun depression. And we've seen options up here. So we're going to push up and help the Chapos, who is rolling in the tort. And you'll see, as we go past, very, very stable on the move gun platform. The M46 is lovely for firing on move. It feels smooth as silk when it's driving. There really is a wonderful feeling of stability with it, but it's not the best gun handling as mentioned previously. Now Chapos is in all kinds of trouble here. He's in licorice all sorts. He's pushed up just at the perfect time for everyone to surround him, and unfortunately I can't save him. So I'm just going to do my best to put damage in while Chapos is pumping, alive and well, and they're all focusing in him. And then I'm going to do a drive-by. Again, another drive-by shot. It's really stable on the move. I love it. I don't know the hard stats for it, but anecdotally, I'll tell you, it feels a lot better at firing on the move than most of the Tier 9 mediums. And that's without a V-stab. So there's something to be said for the quality of the hard stats, or the soft stats rather. I think they're very, very strong now. You'll see here we go to the Tiger 2. It's the end of the game. We're into the vinegar stroke. So we're firing Premo now. Whether you like it or not, I don't mind. If you don't like it, go watch some other channel. I shouldn't say that. Always keep your sets tuned to this TV station. We're now on the way over. You'll see a little spot in a second. The dispersion is rubbish. And as such, sometimes you get some really odd shots, but you can see again another great shot firing on the move. It has this superb look about it too. It looks so sleek and deadly when it's rolling. The only time it lets you down, though, you'll see this is a bit weird, this shot. Fully aimed in, zoomed in, on the Premo. Here's the kill shot. It hits him on the gun mantlet. Everywhere else is a pen. It hits him square on the gun mantlet. No, I don't know either. We have to have a very, very quick trigger finger on this one because you're basically looking at an ammo rack damage here, and he's got adrenaline rolling. So if we don't repair that ammo rack straight away, an IS-8 with adrenaline up will probably beat us on our reload and we'll lose the game. But we don't. We repair it very quickly and make sure of our shot, and we get the win. One more game, and I'll show you it with a little bit more care, less care, and a little bit more reckless abandon. You see how mobile it was there? You've got to keep moving with this tank. Keep it rolling when you're in those kind of situations, and look for tanks that get isolated in these gullies. You can see what I'm talking about here. This is the whole ethos with Wargaming at the moment. It's showing you these gullies and these areas where you can have one-on-one brawls all the time. And when you're in a mobile tank like this, what that allows you to do, and the camo's decent too, so you're rolling forward, here we are. What that allows you to do basically is isolate tanks while other tanks can't hit you. Like this IS, I come around the corner, there's lots of his buddies up there, but because I've isolated him over here, he's going to start turning towards me now. We're going to get the shot on him again, and we pull back, and none of them can see us. Now, if you've got a mobile tank and you've got a little bit of creativity about you, you can take advantage of those situations, especially if you're in a tank like this, which isn't just mobile, but also has lovely gun depression and a reasonably strong turret. Now you can see here, again, gun depression. Let's just get some very interesting shots off into this Ferdinand. And we go up for another bite at the cherry here, where we should have stayed back until the reload was done, but we wanted to get the second shot into that 30. Rich Like an MP is rolling up on the left there, and we're just slowly pushing around doing damage. I'm quite methodical in this tank. I know a lot of people don't love that about the way I play, but I feel like this tank in particular, it works very well. And then it's enough mobility that when you need to cut loose, you can totally do it. There's the IS-6, he's stuck up there. We're going to fire through the old haystack. Obviously nowadays they've changed the mechanics so that you can fire through a haystack like that and still do good damage if you've got enough penetration values. And we've switched up to APCR because we're into the vinegar strokes, into the business end of the business. IS-8 here on the left, big target. We're going to put a couple into him. Happy days, off we go. Just backing it up now. Again, targets of opportunity. He's looking at Rich. So I get to move backwards and forwards, and you'll note that I'm keeping myself in a position where I can back up behind those low ledges, which will cover my lower glacis and the lower parts of the tank and stop me from getting absolutely slaughtered. Likewise, I'm keeping that on my right, but I've seen that there are some butts over there that need some attention, so we're into the butts. Love the butts, can't get enough of them. Boom. And around we go. So, what's it got going for it? Good mobility. If you want to drive it and you want to do well with it, you want to absolutely accentuate that, and you want to use that mobility as much as possible. You want to use that gun depression. I can't say enough about that. Some tanks that have gun depression are completely underutilized, and you can actually sporadically abuse good tanks like T-54s who are fighting through the gun depression fear when they're on small mounds and rises, and get shots off and pull back. And you've got enough DPM and reload speed that if you can do that, you can often get 2 shots to 1, which is really, really important. And don't forget the turret, while not impermeable, not impenetrable, not impermeable, it doesn't absorb water all the time, is actually quite strong. So if they're lower tier tanks and you're using that turret, you can hull down successfully and really punch their lights out. Punch their ticket, knock them off the clock, whatever you want to say about it. So there you go, the M46 Patton. Not a lot to add from the original review. I think we covered it fairly solidly there, but you can see 1.5k just about travelled. Spotting tanks, doing damage, 13 shots fired, 13 hits. If you give the gun time to aim up, it'll do the job for you. Just don't expect to be having that laser-like accuracy that you'll get out of something like the E50. It's really interesting. The tier 9 medium tree is so diverse and unique all across, and they share certain characteristics. Outside of the T-54, I like it as a really balanced tree. There are a few tanks there that aren't that great, that I don't love particularly, but others really go to town in. So I feel like there's not really a bad tier 9 medium apart from maybe the PTA. The Type 61, while I think it's horrible, I did do quite well in it. It had a 65% win rate in that tank, and it works. You know, if you use it hull down and you utilize game mechanics like you do with this M46, you'll do well. But for brawling, you really want to be in an M46 or a T-54 at 9. They're the 2 better tanks at brawling at 9. And by a fair margin as well. So anyway, there's plenty more coming up. We've got an FV4202 vid in the wins. There's another IS3 Defender vid coming up with Hoodie, and a couple of one-game wonders, as well as some really, really interesting stuff coming at the end of the month. I can't say too much. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon, humans. Lovely, and as always, stay safe on the battlefield.